Okay, I'm here with Amy, who has been so kind to meet with us and talk about surrogate motherhood. And we were talking before the recording started about if you have anything lined up to be a surrogate mother or not. It's kind of interesting. Our textbook talks about it a little bit, and I thought, Facebook's a great thing. So I was like, hey, I know someone who's actually in this. So that's great to have you talk to us about it. But go ahead and tell the story that you were going to tell
Okay.
before I start recording.
Yes. Well, again, my name is Amy Emmitt, and I am a mother of two. I have a little girl who I birthed. Her name is Emma, and she is 4 years old. And I have a little boy. Well, he's not so little anymore, but he is going to be 15 this month. And he is my ex-husband's biologically, who I adopted about I think it'll be 5 years in September, on September 30th. That's our gotcha day. And so that's a little bit of my background. And I've been divorced for 3 years. And after my divorce, I all of my best friends, we all have little girls who are all 4 years old, and they all turn four about the same time. And we're all within like 6 months of each other. And so they were all pregnant with their second about the same time. And I had just gone through my divorce, and I started missing being pregnant, and was just feeling left out, kind of, because they were all going through it again together. And I was not. I was, going through this different phase of life. And one of my friends was in the hospital with kidney stones, and while she was pregnant, and so she decided she had all this time on her hands, and I was telling her all about how I was missing it, and she decided to message me all these different like surrogacy agencies. And this was back in 2019, in November 2019. And so I started looking into agencies, immediately got connected with an agency in November. Profile was created the beginning of December for the agency. And then in March of 2020 is when obviously the whole world shut down.
Yeah.
And that was about the time that I was supposed to be connected with a family to carry for. And that's the typical time frame, or it would have been the typical time frame that I would have been connected with somebody. And it just didn't happen because, the whole world shut down.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to the agency and asked them, what was going on, what they thought this looked like, what the new time frame would be, that type of thing. And I never heard back. And I kept on reaching out like every once in a while, like every couple of months, and didn't hear much of anything back until I had looked into going independent. And so you can either go with a surrogacy agency or independent. And independence, just looking for somebody on your own and doing this whole process on your own without somebody to like be there for you and guide you through it. And they had already guided me through so much that I had already known the whole process, and I felt comfortable enough to move forward going independent if I wanted to. And I found Facebook pages where I could put myself out there as a potential surrogate for somebody. And so many people had reached out to me. I had like 25 to 30, maybe even more couples reach out to me. It was crazy. And I had to just like sift through all of them and pick out the ones that I wanted. And by doing that, those are that when you're going independent and you're doing that, you have those conversations about selective reduction or abortion and that type of thing, because you always want to be, aligned with the couple on that. And so those were the type of conversations I was having. And then I met over Zoom with two couples, and prayed on it, and I felt like I was getting my answer. I felt like God was giving me my answer on who I needed to go with. So I went with a certain couple who lived in Texas, and I was working with them from July to January of 2021 of this year. And that's a long time, but we were not going anywhere. We were not getting anywhere. They hadn't allowed me to come and do any of the exams that I needed to do or anything like that. It was ridiculous. And they got to the point where they were like, oh, we're not going to move forward with you. And I was like, after 6 months of wasting my time, but it's okay. It was not meant to be at the time. So I immediately emailed the attorney that I was working with. You have to have an attorney to work with you through all of that for contracts and stuff. And the attorney that I was working with, I just emailed her, let her know that I was no longer working with that couple. And she immediately emailed me back and said, hey, I have a couple who is in need of a surrogate right now. They just started looking. Would you be interested in talking to them? And I said yes. So I felt like that was like a God thing too, and just started chatting with them via email. And then we set up a face-to-face call, like Zoom again, and or not again with them, but for the first time with them. And we had this call, and everything was aligning. We had such good conversations, everything like personally, and was just aligning. And so even down to like our favorite shows. And so we just both felt like it was a good fit. And so we both decided to move forward. And so that is the couple that I've been working with now. And where we're at in the process now, it's kind of been a lot. We've been working together since January or February. It was about February whenever we decided to move forward. And so here we are in July, and I should have technically been pregnant next month with their baby. But I think it's probably going to be more like September. We're still working on contract stuff right now. And then they had to have an egg donor. So we've also been waiting on the egg donor stuff to get completed. Obviously, that has to come first. So we're waiting on that. So the type of surrogacy that I am doing is gestational surrogacy, gestational carrier. I'm a gestational carrier. So there's two types, a traditional and a gestational. And gestational is more common, and it is the one where you are not related, the carrier is not related to the baby at all. So it is not my egg. It's their egg, their embryo just gets transferred. So, and yeah, what are your questions that you had for me?
Yeah. So I think for a lot of people, when they think about something like surrogacy or IVF or anything like that, that they miss out on how long of a process this is and how the legal battles can get tied up. I was listening to an audiobook. I don't even remember the name of it now, talking about some of this stuff because I knew nothing about it. And just over and over again, everyone talking about how long of a process and how intricate of a process this is. So the first thing I want to ask you, though, because this is an ethics class, so I'm going to ask some things that, because you're in it, you've had to wrestle with this already. And the first thing is about when you become pregnant. You said you missed the feeling of being pregnant and going through all that. So when you become pregnant, do you worry at all or have any fear or have like an issue in your mind about when that baby is born, that you're no longer going to be with that baby, that you have to give that baby back to this genetic parents?
So for me, no, because I'm not in that space. I'm a single mom.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have anybody to help me. So it's like a definite no for me on not, I mean, obviously I will probably have those feelings of, love, much love for this baby that I'll be carrying.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm not really worried about it because again, I do have that 4-year-old and I'm a single mom and I've got a lot going on.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are a lot of resources that are out there that can help you through all of that. So if you start having the postpartum depression or just the feelings that you might get after, giving a baby away like that, there's so many resources out there. So the counseling that's also included in a contract, um, counseling, they'll provide up to like 12 appointments for you if you need it. And then also like there's so many different groups that you can join, support groups and surrogate mother groups that you can join that will help you through that. But yeah, I don't think there was something else that I was thinking of, but I can't really think of it right now. So.
Yeah, that's fine. Um, one thing in our textbook, that's kind of a big point that the textbook makes, is that if you do surrogacy, you might have to worry about the surrogate wanting to keep the baby because you're releasing hormones and you get that connection and all of that. So that's interesting. That's interesting perspective. And I didn't know that counseling was part of that. So that's cool. I think as far from an ethics perspective, that helps a lot with people who are struggling with, is this something that is okay to do, or is it something that I need to stay away from? Because you have another party who's willing to come in and talk and help out with those things. So you mentioned that when you began, you were working for an agency,
Uh-huh.
and now you are doing it yourself.
Uh-huh.
So I hope this isn't too personal of a question. I sent you these questions, so if they are,
No,
you
you're good.
cannot talk about them. But speak a little bit to how the whole money stuff works. I know that. Well, I think I know that by law, or at least probably by your contract, they have to at least cover your medical bills, and
Uh-huh.
I guess the counselor and other things like that. But as far as like you being paid, quote unquote, making a profit
Mhm.
on doing this, speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, so it's it's a pretty lucrative deal.
Yeah.
You do make a lot of money doing this, but it is a big sacrifice also. So yeah, there's an escrow account that's involved that the intended parents have to put in a certain amount of money. I think they have to have $50,000 in there off the bat, and they can't let it get down under like 10 grand. And if once it starts to, they have to like put more money in there to make sure it gets up to 10 grand. And yeah, so a surrogate gets paid, a first time surrogate gets paid about, I guess on average, about $40,000 to do this. That's on top of the medical expenses and all of that. So there's a base, plus there's, extras you get for that they'll give you for like starting medications. So I do have to go through IVF for 6 weeks before the transfer, which is why I said September is probably going to be when the transfer will happen, is because I have to have this full 6 weeks of medications before the transfer. And so they'll give you like a medicine, or they'll give you um, money for just starting medications. They'll also compensate you for maternity clothes and I mean all sorts of things. If you're carrying multiples, you'll get more money, stuff like that, or get compensated, I guess is
Mhm.
the proper way to say it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
um but yeah, it is you do make a lot, but it's also a big sacrifice on your body and time and yeah.
So I didn't send you this question, but you talking just prompted it in my head. Is there a limit as to how many babies you can carry as a surrogate?
I think that's more of a personal preference for like the different fertility clinics. It's not really, and it might even be a personal preference for intended parents as well. But I think it's around like 6 or 7 pregnancies. But I'm not 100% on that. Agencies also have a limit, but I don't really know. I didn't really ask when I was with that agency. And but I do know like fertility, I think the agency just was saying that based on fertility clinics, I guess more of like an average. So I think it's more of a fertility clinic preference, really.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me ask you about you had mentioned getting connected with one couple. It
Mm-hmm.
didn't work. Now you're connected with another couple. Lord willing, it will work, and things seem to be looking like it will. Um, how much of a say do you get? I guess since you work for yourself doing this, you get a lot of say in who you can accept or don't.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's with an agency or without. So when you are building your profile, whether it is independently on one of those pages or with an agency on their pages, then you put in your preferences. You can let them know if you do not want to carry for a homosexual couple, then you do not have to do that. If you don't want to carry for someone who is for or who will abort if there's more than one, or selective reduce if there's more than one baby or more than 2 babies, then you don't have to do that. You put all of your preferences on there, and that is something that you definitely discuss beforehand. Like I said, whenever I was discussing with those many different couples, that was something I always brought up was that I'm pro-life. I will not abort. And that's actually something that we're going through right now in my contract that I think we're having a misunderstanding on, which is kind of frustrating because it is something we did discuss beforehand, but we'll get through it. And if God wants me to continue with surrogacy, then this will continue. And if not, then it wasn't part of God's plan. So that's how I see it. So but yeah, it's a big deal, and there's a whole lot more to it than you would think, especially when it comes to selective reduction and abortion, because the thing that we're dealing with right now is they had mentioned in the contract that they would abort if it had Down syndrome, and that was something that I thought that we had talked about before. Was they said they were not even going to test for that. So it's like, why does that even belong in the agreement anyways? And so yeah, it's just a lot that goes to it. And the section of selective reduction and abortion alone in the contract is extremely lengthy, and you have to go through it line by line.
Yeah. So it sounds to me, because I had one more question, but you kind of alluded to it in that answer, which is great, about how much say you have in the process. And it sounds like you as the surrogate have quite a bit of say. You make your profile, you have a lawyer who I'm sure works with their lawyer about what you're going to agree on and disagree on. And so I guess to kind of wrap things up, because you alluded to this, but I want to get just a little bit more on this. Let's say that you have an agreement. We're not going to abort, no matter what, right to life, everything's great. You get pregnant, you find out the baby has Down syndrome, and the parents come back and say, we want to abort. What's the next step? How much say do you have versus them? Because I'm sure you've already signed a contract, and that contract will be legally binding, I would think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so yes, the contract is legally binding. So if the contract fully says you do not want to abort for any reason, or if you have stipulations, like if the baby has literally no quality of life, or if you are in, like if you will die and that's one of your stipulations on there, then whatever your stipulations are, if that is what holds. But if they come back and they say, oh, I do want, you still have you are in control because you are the one that's pregnant. It's your medical decisions. So really you're in control, but also there is a contract. So the contract kind of backs up you when it comes to that.
Cool.
Mhm.
Well, I think this has really helped explain a little more what was in our textbook, and also just kind of get it from another side of the story, someone who's actually in it, which is what I'm trying to do with these extra videos, is show our students people who are actually involved in the realm that we're talking about instead of just reading about it in a book. So, Amy, thank you so much. Guys, as y'all are watching this, Amy has recorded this probably at least once, maybe more, and it just didn't work. So we wound up doing it on Zoom, and I'm so thankful that she's here and talking to us about this. So at this point, I'm going to stop the recording, and hopefully you all are getting something out of it.